Today I'm making some sauerkraut. The beginning of the process started here. Now sauerkraut is just a form of pickling, and basically what we're doing is we're fermenting some cabbage. That sounds kind of gross, doesn't it? But it can play a really important part in your digestive health. If you got a couple hours in your hand, I would suggest you read the gut book. It talks all about probiotics, fermentation, all sorts of handy information that tells you all about your digestive system in a totally scientific way. Okay, I'm always one for the science world. So basically, what happens in the fermentation process is we put some essentially we get some bacteria to start pre-digesting the cabbage. Again, sounds really gross, but the more work that the bacteria does before it gets to your stomach, the less work has to happen in your gut, and the more your body can absorb it, and the more good bacteria can be introduced into your body. So this is a fantastic way to equalize some of the bad bacteria you may have in your stomach, help with any indigestion problems. Now, of course, you could go out and pick up yourself a jar of sauerkraut and you go, why would I make my own? Well, this is great. See the finished product here. However, one thing to note is with most commercial fermented foods and sauerkrauts is that they are pasteurized, which means they're heated to a temperature designed to kill bacteria. Now, normally that's a good thing in food because we don't want bacteria in our food, do we? But when we're talking about fermentation and we're talking about good bacteria, essentially you're killing most of the good, if not all of the good bacteria in your sauerkraut. So this might taste good, but it's not going to have the same effect as something you make at home. So I'm going to show you how we made it. Okay, so first things first, you need to cut up your cabbage. So I've just used a sugarloaf cabbage here, about half a cabbage. And to be honest, this is still a fairly thick cut. Most recipes will tell you to finely grate it, and if you ask after a product which kind of looks something more like what you get in a commercial jar, you're going to want to go thin. You can see how small these strands are here. But I'm happy for a slightly chunkier yet funkier cut, so I went for this kind of size. You need to cut it, put it into a bowl. Step 2 is you need to salt the cabbage. So I've already done that, and what salting the cabbage does, it starts to break down the cell walls and start to release liquid. If you actually look at the bottom of this now, you can see there is liquid. This was totally dry about half an hour ago. But by salting it, you start to release that liquid. And this is going to kickstart the fermentation process. Literally, I have added 0 water to this cabbage, and it was totally dry before. So the salting is starting to work because you can see all of those beautiful juices start to come out. The next step, and this is the most fun bit, is we want to punch, pound, and generally give hell to our cabbage until we have produced enough brine. You might need to do this in steps. Enough brine, or you've released enough moisture out of the cabbage so that it covers the cabbage. Because it's going to basically pickle in its own juices. It's going to ferment in whatever juice comes out of it. So the only way this is going to happen is if you get your hands dirty. Otherwise it's just going to stick inside of the cabbage. Already after just a couple of squeezes, like I've got a good amount of moisture happening in the bottom of that bowl. You can see it there. This can take a couple of minutes, might take 5-10 minutes. You can always use, there are some special tools out there for it. You could use something like a cocktail muddler. You could even use the end of a rolling pin just to get this process kick-started and to get enough fluid out. So just keep going with this until you have enough fluid to cover your cabbage. Then, all we're gonna do, final step, is to grab a jar, preferably one you've sterilized. We're gonna pop all of the cabbage in there along with all of the brine, and you must make sure that the brine goes over the top of the cabbage, so there's no air pockets. When there starts to be air pockets, you start to open yourself up for mold and for the whole thing just to end really badly. You might need to put a bit of a weight on top of it, so that might be, if you've got a small enough saucer that could fit in there, or maybe some baking stones or something, you can just weigh it down. Maybe there's some parchment paper. That'll help you to just make sure the cabbage stays under its fluid. Now, how long does this whole process take? You can leave sauerkraut, you can start eating it from about 2 days after you've started fermenting it, and you can leave it for a couple of weeks, even a couple of months. Use your brain. If it smells like it really shouldn't smell like sauerkraut, you know, if it's something really foreign, then maybe it's kind of past its use by date, but so technically speaking, you should be pretty good for a decent amount of time. I love adding sauerkraut to salads. I love putting it on sandwiches, in wraps. It's a beautiful, tangy, healthy way to add more flavor. And as I said, it's a fantastic probiotic. So grab yourself a cabbage, super cheap to grab a cabbage. Get the right type. Read the gut book, learn more about how your body works, and we'll catch you next time.